canceled, there's no way that you can stop me. I'm fully independent, there's no label who can drop me. Y'all been starting rumors, let me help you with some. Yeah, y'all can't cancel me. My life is scandal free. There ain't no sponsors taking losses cause the brand is me. My hands are clean, my family and my fans agree. Y'all can't cancel me for facts because you're mad and weak. How's a man say I'm clickbait if he gonna use this face to get clicks on his page? Y'all hypocrites are made. But I ain't tripping about these bullies, it ain't 6th grade. Go ahead and diss me trying to sell a couple mixtapes. I am not playing it safe, I said what I said, it is what it is. I don't care if you mad at me, okay? Go ahead and change the channel. Don't waste your time trying to cancel me, okay? They love me cause they know that I'm it. Say what you want, I guess it is what it is. Haters can talk, but they can't cancel the kid. Go ahead and go off, try and say this is it.
Aaron Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com. Hey there, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you. It is just a couple minutes after 9:30 on your Monday, so thanks for joining me. I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about the threat of severe weather to see if we're still going to see some storms overnight here in Oklahoma, what you can expect with those, and also take a look at how your Tuesday's shaping up. So I hope most of you got a chance to get some outdoor stuff done today. So we did get several dry hours, which is great. We're timing out the rain just right. We're kind of affecting the body of Oklahoma during the overnight and early morning periods and kind of leaving us on during the middle of the day. When is that trend going to continue? Well, we'll find out here together. So thanks for watching me here on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and also on Twitter Live. All right, so let's see. The first thing I want to get on into is going to be the radar view. So let's pull that up here for you. All right, so we do have some storms out here in the Texas Panhandle. These guys are kind of making their way to an east and northeast fashion. They will be weakening with time over the next hour or two. Down here in northwest Texas, these guys are still going pretty strong. They're going to be making their way in west of Dallas, this little blue box area here, which indicates a severe thunderstorm watch. And that's going to be for a little bit of wind and hail. So there has not been any tornado warnings anytime soon, or recently I should say, and there won't be anytime soon. So the tornado threat is pretty much over unless it's a freak occurrence. Otherwise, we're just looking at diminishing, slow but sure, as far as intensity goes, line of showers and storms with some hail and wind in them, down to our south and west. Now, what happened out here? What's going on here in southwest Oklahoma? I thought we were going to see some of these storms move in here, right? Because that's what the models were indicating would happen. Well, the northern end of it fell apart. Now, we still do have some bubblings going on, so it's not over. It's just not going to be a big deal. And this stuff that comes into the west should diminish with time. But that's how things look right now in the radar view here across our region. Now, there has been several severe weather reports, as you can imagine. Everything you see here in green is indicating hail, so a lot of hail reports out here in western Texas. But if you'll notice, the T's are red for tornadoes. So there's one west of Lubbock, confirmed, one out here west of Amarillo, and then out here in New Mexico, actually, there's 3 tornadoes confirmed there. And what struck my eye the most, look down here around Lake Charles to Lafayette. Look how many tornadoes reported today down in this area. They even had some flash flooding and some just basic flooding going on down here in southern Louisiana today. So rough go in that part of the country. But Oklahoma, of course, we have not seen anything like that around here. Now, the storms out in western Oklahoma, or excuse me, out in western Texas, in Amarillo, the wind shear was pretty decent. You can get tornadoes sometimes with not so nice wind shear. In other words, weaker winds and not as pretty when it looks like a profile. Out here in far western Texas, same kind of idea. They had an easterly surface wind for the couple thousand feet up, and then it kind of goes due south. But the winds are very light, only around 10 knots or so in the sounding data. So it wasn't exactly a ideal case out there for tornadoes to occur, and so that's why so far there's only 2 official. And if we look at the forecast, or excuse me, the current sounding here this evening in Oklahoma City, This is pathetic. It was 5 knots from the surface all the way up to 10,000 feet. You're not getting anything in that kind of environment when it comes to severe weather. So, hey, that's great for us, right? Not bad at all. Now, this is the worn-on forecast, which is basically a supermodel ensemble resolution of a very short-term window of how a current state of the atmosphere goes for just out over the course of about, I think it's a maximum of 3 hours. So if you take a look here, we do have these storms out here in northwest Texas, and you've got the ones out here in the Panhandle. But watch what happens as we go through time. Look how they kind of really don't do much in far southern and southwestern Oklahoma. And then those ones in the Panhandle, they come east, but they don't really stay very strong. And if I go through several of the different runs of this model, same kind of look, and this is up around just before midnight. So you do get some rumbles of thunder, maybe a little bit of small hail and some wind out here in the far western counties of Oklahoma, but after that, the signal is for this to continue to fall apart. So we won't probably see much in the way of severe weather overnight here in Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma. Now, if you look at tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center already has a big slight risk painted in yellow down here in Texas and southeast Oklahoma. And that'll likely be kind of massaged and redrawn based off of how things go tonight, because the forecast in this type of environment is more of a summer-esque, so you have to deal with a lot of outflow boundaries, and a lot of it depends on the prior day convection. If things don't go as forecasted or planned, then you got to throw it away and start over. So tomorrow's going to be a little one of those days. Now, if we look at analogs, though, go back in history and you kind of mimic the pattern, it is favorable, not going to say it's going to happen, but it is favorable that we could see a tornado or two, as I talked about the last couple of nights here on AT's weather, down here across the southern counties of Oklahoma and the Red River Valley, back in northwestern Texas. So that is one of the elements. The other element, by the way, what's interesting is the analog models do say, hey, high probability, 80-90% of seeing severe weather reports down here in southern and Oklahoma and out across western Texas. Now, that's one report of severe weather. When it calculates a probability of 5 or more reports, it drops down to 50%. So it's not even that excited in analog terms as far as multiple severe weather reports for tomorrow, which is kind of like we just started this show with. I showed you the hail, wind, and tornado reports. Now, if we look at the rainfall for tomorrow, still looks heavy. So this big bullseye over Oklahoma is in the purple and red, which is anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, and some of the higher amounts with the storms that move in, and greater than 2 inches, the probability is up around 50 to 60% to 70%. So again, the models are very excited about rainfall for tomorrow. So that does lead us into the next graphic, which is a flash flood risk, especially in the moderate category down here across the southern third of the state. Still a slight one here in Oklahoma City. As you guys know, if you live in low-lying areas, like it around Norman or more, if you flood, usually you're going to flood again anytime you get a heavy thunderstorm move through. So we're in that pattern. You're just going to kind of have to watch it. Now, the other pattern that we're in is kind of in a favorable, if things go just right, again, depending on cloud cover, timing, any boundaries, that kind of deal. This is the forecast sounding for tomorrow afternoon, late day, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so North Texas. The reason why I bring this up is because it is very favorable for instability and shear for tornadoes. So I would not be surprised to see a couple of tornadoes in North Texas tomorrow afternoon and evening if the storms can take advantage of this. Depends on how things go overnight, if things get cleared out, that kind of deal. Because if it storms in the morning too long, then it messes up the rest of the day, which is fine. But that's the kind of atmosphere is potentially on the table if things work out well or wrong, however you want to look at it. All right, depends on if you want that kind of stuff or not, aka storm chaser or normal people. All right, so here's a look at the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is a jet stream pattern. You see this bouts of energy that moves through in colors. That indicates lift in the atmosphere, right? So that's moving on through tonight into tomorrow, midday. And you see this little spiraling motion out here. That's the center of the upper level low, and this is Tuesday afternoon. All right, so we're in a favorable southwest flow with this part, and then we've got all this little ripples of energy that rotate around, and any one of these can generate some clusters of storms that gets fired up and gets moving. Now, as we head on into time, we're kind of stuck in this pattern through Wednesday morning, and then here's Wednesday afternoon. And the model has actually slowed the ejection of this upper level low in the last couple of days. So now it has it over the Panhandle. So it puts us in more of a favorable wind shear in general as far as direction goes. and it still puts us in a favorable lift pattern as far as rain and storms go. What we're just missing is a lot of instability, and we're missing speed shear, which is a limiting factor as well. But with this particular case, let me just plot a forecast on it because I haven't done it yet with this new model data. But here's what I'm talking about. So it does show turning with height in the lowest few kilometers out there. So that's what you need to get a potential tornado to go. Sounding's actually, it's okay, it's decent. It's not overly aggressive for producing a tornado. It can happen, but it's not a very favorable one. Winds are weak here in the mid-levels, and there's a pretty significant cap out there, at least in this particular plot that I chose. So that could mean some leftover rain from earlier in the day, some cloud cover, and that would prevent anything from happening. We'll get to that here in just 2 seconds. So this upper level energy, as you can see all the colors, stay with us. This is on Thursday. This is Thursday afternoon. So we're kind of, like I said, stuck in this pattern. Any point in time is fair game. The models will struggle at the exact timing, and they will struggle at the placement. But all we know as meteorologists, we recognize the pattern. We go, it's a scattered, wet pattern. It's not a washout. There's several hours of dry weather, but it's just the timing of this is difficult. But we do our best. So here's a look. Let's go to the model data. So we're going to take a big picture first off. Show you 2 runs. This is our high resolution HER run. So it's got those storms out in the western Texas. Moving on to the east, this is around midnight hour, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. It's got those storms out in northwest Oklahoma falling apart. Not nearly as strong as they were. They're still going to go, though, according to this model. We'll see. This one has it kind of falling apart along the Red River. So overnight into tomorrow morning, isolated showers and storms here across central Oklahoma if they hold together. Then those kind of fall apart in the morning hours. And then a new batch, look at that over Texas, just a big blob of rain out there. And that'll form probably just a big mesoscale convective complex. That's in the morning hours. And you can see, I guess, a little stronger moving through Dallas-Fort Worth, now east of there toward Tyler and down toward Bryan College Station by the time you headed to the midday hours. And you can see how that continues across Texas. And Oklahoma, for the most part, we get that glancing blow in the southern counties, but otherwise fairly quiet. Afternoon, some pop-up storms, looks like maybe in northern Oklahoma, and there's more stuff out here in the Texas Panhandle. So you can see how things can change. Now also notice with the timing of this squall line still kind of anchored out here, moving very slow and back into it, still got that wraparound rainfall. That would reduce any potential tornado threat in Dallas-Fort Worth for tomorrow afternoon. So this is one example of how if clusters of storms can move in at the wrong time, it can really mess things up as far as what's on the table. Now let's go ahead and keep going on into Wednesday. So it looks like scattered showers, maybe isolated in the morning, Wednesday morning, no big deal, central eastern Oklahoma. And then for the afternoon and evening, this is when a new round starts to move in to southwest Oklahoma midday, and that moves into central Oklahoma City by Wednesday afternoon. And these are probably some hail and wind producers. We can take a look just to see what potential forecast sounding would look like at that time. The winds on this one is very, very weak. A lot of it south to southwest direction at times. So probably just some heavy rain making with that one. Nothing too, screams out too crazy. But we can watch that. That's on Wednesday, so we got time to look at that data. But you can see the stretch of moisture up the I-35 corridor running right through Texas on in Oklahoma. So this is why we're still kind of stuck in that little pattern. All right, so that is a look at the HER. We're going to go to the NAM model. It sometimes does a little bit better in these situations. So we're going to see if I like the looks of it. Because remember, I'm just now looking at this new data that's coming in along with you. All right, so sometimes you have to do this on the fly, my friends. Okay, so we got those storms down in North Texas in the morning hours. Okay, I like that look. That's fine. You notice here in Oklahoma, it's pretty quiet. See those storms out in western Oklahoma? Look how they come across, and then they just really don't do much. Fall apart. There's some leftover isolated stuff here in central Oklahoma in the morning. Otherwise, dry looks like, with the exception of southern Oklahoma during the daytime hours. And then the afternoon, there's a couple that tries to pop back up in northern Oklahoma again. Otherwise, here's where the next round comes in. This is tomorrow night. So this is well after dark. North Texas lights up along the Red River, and those storms move north into tomorrow evening. Now, what does the forecast sounding profile look like here on Oklahoma City? Now, these are two different models, and the NAM can sometimes be a little aggressive, and the HER can be aggressive, I guess you could say, underdo things. But the truth is going to lie somewhere in the middle. But the NAM has a lot better lower level shear profile, turning with height, and better speeds up around 30 knots at times. So that puts us kind of in a marginal tornado risk for tomorrow evening here in central Oklahoma based off of just this model. The other one was not suggesting that. This one is. So it's going to be one of those things you have to watch for as you get these storm looks that kind of bubble up out there. But that's for tomorrow night through midnight onward. Kind of moves into eastern Oklahoma in the daybreak hours. And then we're kind of quiet again. And then what happens Wednesday afternoon? Another round moves into western Oklahoma. Nice little squall line look to that one. But it falls apart in the evening hours. Probably because it says we're a little too stable during the day. And we don't get to recover enough. All right, so that's kind of a look at the big picture. Let's go down to the smaller Oklahoma view. By the way, I want to see what it did with Dallas in the late afternoon. Okay, so it just kind of started getting things recovering here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area by like 9 o'clock at night. So look what the sounding looks like down there. So it does still indicate potential for marginal tornado risk down in Dallas-Fort Worth with this shear profile. So just kind of, if you live down there, you got some friends, again, late day, just in case atmosphere recovers quickly at the last minute, that can be an issue, and then we'll track that here in Oklahoma as well. Okay, so let's go to the Oklahoma view of this nastiness, and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so let's see here. So this is this evening stuff out in western Oklahoma. There's 1 o'clock in the morning. Move this up here for you. So you can see the time right here. So that says 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time, as in 2 a.m. All right, so we'll keep going with timing. So there's this isolated stuff that pops up here. So it might be a little bit of a wet drive for some of you in your morning commute. It doesn't appear to be anything of significance, though. So headed to the 9 a.m. hour, still has some scattered showers, cloud cover. Then there's that round of rain that moves across southern Oklahoma during the middle of the day. There's lunchtime. In the afternoon, some storms maybe for southeast Oklahoma as they get a little more instability to work with. It looks like we might try to bubble up a couple of storms here in north central Oklahoma for the 3 to 4 o'clock hour, but they don't really do much, and that's it. So it does not appear to be a big, rainy deal for our Tuesday, based off of this in the daylight hours. Now, as we head back into the evening, so here's 11 o'clock, here's midnight. This is what I was talking about, how those storms come in from North Texas. They do come into central Oklahoma. This is 1 o'clock in the morning. So we'll have to watch for those little surprise, tornado-type deals embedded within this junk. It's not a classic situation, again, but it really can't be ruled out. It's one of those deals. But models are indicating some decent hail with some of these storms. So even though we may not get much during the day on Tuesday, they're really liking Tuesday night for a thunderstorm round that moves in. So let's head into Wednesday morning. It all starts to move out of the state to the east, and things quiet down again as we talked about Wednesday afternoon. Here comes that next round out here in western Oklahoma. Nice little squall lines trying to develop out there from Elk City down south and west. Now within that squall line, looks like the atmosphere actually has a pretty decent profile for a potential tornado. So in that case, if it ends up getting the squall line early and the cells don't stay separated, then you end up kind of having to transition over to a QLCS type tornado threat, which means you either get an embedded supercell within this, or on the QLCS you'll get along the leading edge of the line little baby spin ups that may happen. Either way, that's a potential. It's on the table for Wednesday evening. It's early before they kind of diminish, because there's 9 o'clock and they're falling apart. They don't even make it to Oklahoma City before they die out by 11 o'clock on Wednesday evening. So there you go. Okay, temperatures. Let's take a look. How about 70s to right around 80 degrees for daytime highs from now to ever for the rest of the month. And then overnight lows in the Bermuda country, and Bermuda meaning grass. So there you go. All right. Let's see. Was that everything? I believe it was. It was a lot to talk about, but man, this time of the year, normally we're forecasting tornadoes left and right because it's the peak of our tornado season, and we're not having that, which is fine. I can't fathom us getting by this week without at least a tornado warning in the state. Whether or not it verifies to an official touchdown, that's a whole other discussion, but at least a warning out of all this. So don't be surprised. Use my free weather app. It's called AT's Weather to Go. It's free on Apple and Google Play. It will send you a dangerous storm approaching. That's an alert. It's a custom proprietary alert that'll send you out. I think it's when it approaches about 25 miles away. It'll give you a BTI rating with that. That's your first indication. It'll also tell you if lightning's in the area, so it'll give you that as well. And then if it's really starting to spin up and twist, in other words, rotation within the column, it'll send you a twisting storm alert. So that's your tornado heads up, coming your way type deal. It'll give you a BTI number from 0 to 10. If it's in the low end, it just means there's some rotation. Just keep an eye on it. But if it's in the middle, I'd start getting things together to hit the shelters, depending on how much time you have. And if it's a 7, 8, 9, 10, just hit the deck. If you don't have time, and research on all this shows that those are tornadoes for sure. So it's kind of a ramping up game. If it starts out low, keep an eye on it. But if it starts to ramp up or get higher, that's when you're going to take action. So, and it's always the same. It's the middle part of whatever structure you're in, lowest floor, away from all outside walls and windows, and grab as much stuff as you can put around you to protect you from debris that flies around the air. And then for kids, I put a couple of posts out on Twitter and Facebook. Call it tornado gear. What we really call it is sporting gear, but pads, helmets, all that kind of stuff, just put it on them and say, all right, kids, you know the routine, and you practice it, and everybody knows what to do. Make sure somebody's in charge of the pets. Don't leave them out there. And then shoes, finally shoes, because what happens if, for whatever reason, you get hit by a tornado and you do get enough damage to where you're going to be out there walking in that debris, nails everywhere. And if you don't have proper footwear, you're going to get nails in your feet. And some of these might be rusty nails, so you don't want to deal with that. That's one of the number one injuries, though, from after a tornado moves through, is because of that exposure to that. And most people don't grab shoes on their way to the storm shelter because you usually have seconds, right? Now, that's another point about my app. It will warn you up to about 15 minutes extra lead time, and that can be before an actual official tornado warning comes out. So there's a lot of extra minutes that app gives you that you're not going to get from any other app. So go download it now. It's called AT's Weather to Go. And then use it just for spring. And then if you want to get rid of it after that, that's fine with me. You're going to hurt my feelings. It's for your safety. I would utilize it. Let me think. Elizabeth is asking for Larry. You guys are hilarious. Let me look at a couple of your comments, and then we're going to turn you loose. By the way, on YouTube, I see you guys. So thanks for checking in. Shannon, you're welcome. Glad to help you out. I looked at it as, it says Facebook keeps freezing up. Well, it's terrible. Well, let me know if it's better on YouTube. So if that ever happens, you can watch me on YouTube or Twitter Live. If any of these other platforms have a problem, of course it also should be your Wi-Fi. You just need more Wi-Fi. But Shannon, so what I kind of look at is, and not to preach to you, but I think God gives each of us a gift, and it's how you use that gift in life. Some people will use it very selfishly to profit or benefit only themselves, and then others will use that gift to help others in need the best way you can to do that. And if it turns out that benefits you financially, great. If it doesn't matter, because you're going to have rewards far beyond monetary value or things. So that's kind of the way I look at it, and with the weather, and then everything else that I have spent through my entire life from working in television. So the knowledge base I have, building a TV studio, for example, in my office, to building all the computers and the server information, and then all the design graphics, and then the marketing, the promotion, all that stuff. I mean, it's all up here to where my head's about to explode. But I have to give credit and thanks for putting me in that position to learn all that stuff, and then me like a sponge, then I can use it all in this format and give it back. So it's kind of neat. And then that's just on top of forecasting the weather and covering storms. All right, let's go to a couple more questions here, if there are any. By the way, thanks you guys for shooting me those star sign on Facebook. I appreciate that. Brian, so we are screwed for rain in Custer County. Don't give up yet. It's still a wet pattern overall, week-wise, so anywhere's fair game as far as rainfall. I've shown you some rainfall maps over the last several days. It hasn't really changed. We're looking for widespread 2 to 3 inches over most areas, and then some people are going to get a lot more than that, and that's what's going to lead to the flash flooding potential. Let's see. Doug said Facebook is good tonight. Carter wants to know, what about Memorial Day weekend? We did talk about that earlier. If you guys want to hang on, I'll give you a little bonus content. We'll shoot you into Memorial Day, see what's changed. Amy, you're welcome. And, Larry gets all the love on this thing. My name turns to mud real quick when Larry's around, and it turns into mud real quick when Jody's around. I'm honestly thinking y'all just want those two up here, not even me, which is totally fine. I told Jody I'm going to make it the Jody show, and she and Larry can just hang out. You might get more viewers. Who's in charge of Larry in the Tuttle house? Larry is in charge of Larry. That's for sure. Let's see. He's the boss. He is such an alpha. You've ever seen a 3-pound alpha? Like this alpha. He bows up to me. I'm telling you. It's kind of amusing. All right. So let me go ahead and just do some look at the Memorial Day. I have not looked in the last couple of days because WACs were so far out and things changed a lot between now and then. So I usually don't waste too much time on it. We did that one of the day just because I just gave some extra content just to see how things were looking. So we're going to go back to the jet stream pattern. That's where you got to start. Start from the top down. All right, and then we're going to have to go to the global models. We'll just do the European. We'll just pick that one. Don't know if it's going to be right or wrong at this point, but we're going to take a look, see what it's telling me. All right, so here we go. There's Friday. There's that big ridge that sneaks in here for a little bit for Monday next week. All right, so there's on the 27th. All right, so we have our first little bowling ball, upper level low that's moving in. And that puts the favorable lift area right here in that quadrant, which is coming into Oklahoma. Now, this is a morning map, in other words. It doesn't include Tuesday afternoon, but at least can see the setup in the morning hours. And it does have some decent shear. The wind speeds are a little bit weak at the surface, but otherwise, this would be a tornado-type profile as far as wind goes. However, it doesn't have a lot of... we'll see how the moisture does. Over time. It's got a dew point of 63. This time of the year, man, you really should be getting up around 70. But we'll see what happens. That's adequate. And the algorithm's up around a hail, so 2.5 inches. So that's on the 27th. That's as far as this model goes. So now we'll go to the GFS, and we'll see what the American does. All right. So we are into... Let's go back up to the 27th, and we'll start from there. All right, so here's the 27th. Where's my storm? Remember, it was supposed to be over here. Well, they got a little something down here, so it's late to the party. Let's see what happens. It diminishes it, just kind of spreads it out as leftover energy. In other words, it weakens, probably because it's running into the upper end of this ridge, and so it kind of loses a lot of its punch because of that, and more of its influence is now over this part of the country. Versus where we are. But that's the first wave on the 27th. Let's see what happens after that. That ridge is still fighting down south. Oh my gosh, at 594. Shut the door, man. Spring is over. That's the summertime pattern. Man, all the energy's up north. So the GFS is continuing with the poo-poo of Memorial Day weekend when it comes to storms. Actually keeping it fairly dry. Quiet, no storm as far as overall pattern goes. We'll see if it tries to sneak anything underneath the ridge. So let me zoom in, and then we're going to put some temperatures on there because I imagine it'd be pretty toasty with that pattern. Okay, so we'll go with the rainfall first. So let's start you off on the 27th, which is right here, and nothing. There's it's got a weak front that comes in. On the 29th. Interesting. What does it look like in the atmosphere for this? Southwest wind, big cap. So if a storm goes, probably some good hail. Doesn't really do much with it though. All right, and that front probably kind of falls apart. So it's got a little Sunday morning inkling of just trapped leftover moisture from a stagnant air mass that clearly can't mix out. There's the afternoon version of this. So that would be cooler. So it's saturated here at the lowest levels. So that means no sun for sun tanning on, what day was this? That's on the 30th. All right, and then the 31st, got a couple of showers. There's a little weak signal, and here's a warm front signal. It's still a little bit of a weak signal, but it's on the northern fringe of the ridge, of the upper ridge. So sometimes that can have, we call it the ring of fire in the summertime. So on the northern fringe, sometimes storms can ride up around that. So that would affect the northern counties, maybe on the 31st, in that type of a situation. But let me see what temperatures look like. And let's just zoom in. Right. What's up to the 27th? So that's what I'm telling you about it being warm, cold front or not. My goodness. So on the 28th, we're in the 90s and some 80s. And then on the 29th, that's where that front comes in. Okay. So that's a big difference from 91 degrees Oklahoma City to 71 in Enid. That's a pretty strong front. So that really stabilizes things, hence the cloud cover and the trapped clouds and some sprinkles for the 30th on Sunday. Matter of fact, it has a temperature of 68 degrees. You go from 91 the day before to 68 the next day. That's a good front. All right, and then we got the 31st. We're back into the mid-80s. And you're socked in the clouds up here in northeast Oklahoma, quite a bit cooler. So it looks like we're going to have to, if this is just based off this one model, and we're way out, but just based off of this, what you'd have to deal with, potential for a stray storm with hail, the main threat. Otherwise, you've got clouds, cooler weather that comes about a cold front on Saturday, retreats on Sunday as a warm front, but it kind of slows down and starts to wash out. So you're cooler in northern Oklahoma as a result, and a little more humid in southern Oklahoma. So a mixture of clouds and sunshine with that. So there you go. We mixture clouds and sun over the entire period. A couple of storms around, but otherwise fairly quiet. And at one point there, a very cool Saturday thanks to that front. All right, so that's a look at that. And don't bet the farm on it, because sure that'll change. But Carter, there you go, man. You asked for it, you got it. Hey, you sent me 150 stars, so appreciate that. By the way, Melanie sent me some stars, so did Mallory. Let's see, who else we got? Doug's in the house with some stars. Giving you guys some shout-outs here real quick for his appreciation. Tina's in the house with some stars. Who else we got? So this is on the Facebook Live, by the way, at the bottom where you leave a comment. Lindsay and Jordan also, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Chrissy said, I just got a severe thunderstorm warning for our area. Well, Chrissy, I don't know what area you live in, but I'm going to guess you live way in Texas. And before I go, I'm going to pull up my radar to see. We can all look together. So you must live out here in the eastern Texas panhandle, maybe, Childress, Paducah. Maybe you live up here in Canadian County. Otherwise, you're going to have to live way down here in Cisco, Breckenridge. Those are the only storms anywhere near us. You got some of the flooding going on here in southern Louisiana. Looks like that's it. Pretty quiet across the country. So Texas seems to be where it was at for today out there west. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you for watching. I appreciate the comments. And Michelle, yes, you're welcome. Approach the weather with the information, not the hype. Trust me, we get enough of it. Jackson County. Okay, I see. They just now popped that little warning up. It just barely covers the county line. So that was going on. That's over. It's probably about an hour away if it holds together. Yeah. I mean, you guys gotta watch. Where you get your information from. And if someone's just screaming to the stars every time there's a threat of storms or whatever, or just very exaggerated and emotionally driven of just whatever gets you to just get excited. And if that bothers you, just turn it off or change it or don't follow. That's my recommendation. So other than that, you're going to keep getting it. But maybe you want it secretly, deep down inside. All right, well, deep down inside, I want to shower. So that's where I'm headed. You guys have a good night tonight. Sleep well. And if you're really, really late and you missed it, there's some storms way out in western Oklahoma and far southern Oklahoma that'll be fizzling little by little each hour. And then, so not much expected overnight. Some isolated stuff popping up, especially for drive time area here in central Oklahoma. Shouldn't be too intense at all. And then we shall get a mostly dry Tuesday, and then Tuesday evening, coming in from the south, is where we'll have to watch for things to get a little interesting around here on down to Dallas. Okay, that's it. You guys have a great rest of your night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.